good to be with you guys, but I guess you got a problem because they brought the shrink in. So let's start out. You know, Dave talked a bit about being humble. How many of you got issues? All right, that's good. How many of you don't? You just can't, you kind of got, things are going well. No real issues to work on. Anybody? Somebody out there's got it all together, right? Come on, be honest. There's an arrogant, prideful person here somewhere. I usually can find one, and I ask them to stand up because it's important for everybody else to see what denial looks like. We're going to talk about some issues today, but first of all, I want to thank Dave for something that he mentioned. He said that he's a person of faith and a Christian, and I am too. And when I wasn't, I had a problem. I liked God. I just didn't like his friends. I thought they were weird. And I love Dave Ramsey events because hanging out with these guys, they like God and they're not weird. We all have fun. So thank you, Dave, for that. All your friends here. So here's a problem that you have. Since we've all admitted we got problems. Here's a problem that you have. You are really good at something. You started a business, you're running a business, or you run something in a business, and that's because you're really good at something. It might be marketing, it might be finance, it might be a service business, but there was something you did well, and this turned into something, and that's what you do well. But then you got a problem. That's what you went in this to do, but now you got two jobs, and you didn't really prepare for the second one, and the second one's the most important one, and that is you're also a leader. So you might be an expert at whatever you're an expert at, but now you got to lead people. And none of us really got trained very well in that. It's something that we have to learn. So I want to talk about a path today. I'm going to have 5 parts to this path, and here is your problem. None of us are extremely gifted in all 5 of these. And here's inevitably what people do who don't think about it, is they tend to build, I want you to hear this, they tend to build their business in their own image. They tend to build their business in their own image. In other words, whatever you're good at, your business is going to look like that, but whatever you're not good at, unless you're mindful of it, your business is going to look like that too. So like Dave said, it flows from the top. So I want you all to take a big step right now. I want you to become more than a German Shepherd. Now some of you are going, what's he talking about? Well, here's what I'm talking about. A German Shepherd is one of the smartest dogs on the planet. I've trained a bunch of them. I love dog training. It's easier than people training. But here's what a German Shepherd does. A German Shepherd works out of its own instincts and its own patterning. And a German Shepherd will go to the front door or the window or whatever, and a German Shepherd barks. And they do a great job at that. But a German Shepherd never takes a moment and steps back after he barks and says, I wonder if that was helpful. Was it louder? Maybe it's too loud. Did that bark help get me where I want to be on Thursday? See, they don't do that. Only a human can do that. And what we're going to do today is what only a human can do, and many humans never become fully human. They're acting on their patterns and their instincts and their wiring. And so they create businesses that bark well, but that barking doesn't always get them from the most important thing leadership does, and that is to move something from here to there. And that's what we're going to talk about. How does that path work? But to do it, you got to get above your barking, above how you lead, and look at how am I leading? Because your business will not make it without these 5 elements. It will struggle. And you're not good at all of them, but you got to get above it and make sure your business has all of these 5. And that's leadership. You know, Socrates had said the unexamined life is not worth living. What I would say is the unexamined business will fail. Doesn't matter how good the product is, doesn't matter how good the service is. It's the examination of the leadership, how the barking is happening, and that's you. So we're going to take a look at that. Basically, I'm going to use a metaphor here. And when I started working in leadership in my first job as a psychologist, I was hired by a leadership consulting firm to work with leaders. Now I spend probably 80% of my time with CEOs and their teams, helping them look at the way they lead. And when I was going through the years of all of this, I started to notice something, that a great organization does exactly that. It starts where it is here, and it moves to there. And I started asking the question, what's a good metaphor for that? And I asked the question one day, you know, if God made a company, how would he design it? What would his leadership model be? And I started thinking about this, and I thought, well, he does have one. It's called the church. That's his company. And you talk about starting out with 12 bozos. I mean, you think you got a bad team? But he gave us a metaphor. He calls his company a body. So I got interested in this metaphor, and I started looking at, what does God's company do? What does a body do to get from here to there? And here's the 5 things, and then I'm going to break them down for you. Number 1, the first thing the body does is it's got a head. And the head comes up with something we call the desired future state. In other words, I'm here, my head says, you know what, I love talking to you guys over here, but it would be better if I were standing over there, because then I could talk to more people. So the first thing my head does is it says, I got to know where I'm going. We call that a vision. And it's able to imagine today what does not exist today that I want to have happen in the future. That's our desired future state. Now watch this. Tell my head to go there. Can't do it. But what does the head do next? It engages the right talent that it's going to need to get there. So it thinks and it sends impulses out to engage the talent. It says, I'm going to need a couple legs, and we need some eyes, and we need a heart pumping energy through. And it engages the talent. That's the second thing it does. And now we're ready to go, right? Well, let's go. Well, how am I going to get there? Am I going to ride a bike? Am I going to roll? Am I going to skip? And it looks at this and says, no, I think the best strategy, the best plan is I'm going to walk, and I'm going to take a certain number of steps. So we start to walk, and then I end up over here. No, the body has a measurement system. The fourth thing after the strategy has a measurement system to let me know, am I getting there? And it holds me accountable to that. And when I'm off, it fixes me. 5 steps. Knowing the desired future. If I'm here, what is there? Second one, engaging the right talent. Third one, having a strategy and a plan. The fourth one, measuring and holding myself accountable and the company accountable to work in that plan. And then fifth, when I get off track, it quickly fixes what I find in my accountability system. All 5 of those have to be present for a business to make it. Here's the problem. I'm not good at all 5. You're not good at all 5. You may be great at vision, but when it comes to holding somebody accountable, maybe you're conflict avoidant. Might be great at vision, but scattered, and you don't think in a linear way of how to get from here to there. And what we do is we'll build a company with our own strengths and our own weaknesses. Now, you're not going to be the greatest at all 5, but you're above the German Shepherd. And you got to make sure your business has all 5. So let's start to break those down. Number 1, A desired future state starts with that vision, but all three of those words, desired future state. Desired means it's compelling. How many of you have known that moment when you had the vision for your company and what you wanted it to be, and you would do anything to make that become a reality? Let me see your hands, okay? How strong is that? How strong is that? Because I'm going to tell you, building a business, if you don't desire it, if you don't desire whatever that is, it's going to get hard. And when you desire it and everybody else desires it and it's clear, then it's going to be compelling and we're going to be able to make that future state, what doesn't exist, a real state. It's not a fantasy. So here's the difference in a vision and a fantasy. A vision is something that's actually going to happen if there's great leadership. A fantasy is what everybody does in the rest of the world. They just dream, but it never happens. So I'm going to ask you a question about your vision. And this gets to you. And maybe this might be your issue. How deep have you gone? I went into a company that was all confused, had a great product, but they were all confused. And the first thing I did was I walked in, had the executive team, I handed them 3x5 cards, 7 people, and I said, write down the vision of your company. I got 7 different answers. That's a true story. And this is a global big entity. Now, they all kind of knew what business they were in, but they hadn't defined it, and it wasn't compelling enough to get everybody aligned. See, when a business has a vision that's compelling, that everybody would want to go there and get there and do anything to get there, then things begin to get aligned. And I want to ask you this question. Does everybody in your organization know why we are here? And is that vision compelling? You know, the great vision statement we always hear is Martin Luther King's. Think of how compelling this is. He said, I see a day, not today, it's in the future. It wasn't how it was when he started, but he said, I see a day when a person is judged by the quality of their character instead of the color of their skin. Now that can get you up in the morning. And everybody that went with him to make that a reality was aligned on that. Now it's one thing for you to have that vision, but does everybody know it and do they have it? Let me tell you a great example of what this looks like. One of the researchers in this area, a guy named Seligman, tells a story of he had a friend who was in a coma. And he went to visit him in the hospital one night, about 11 o'clock at night. Everything's quiet. He just went in to sit at the foot of his bed. And he's sitting there, and the night janitor walks in. And he's dumping trash out and cleaning up. But then he notices this janitor has a bag with him, a big bag. And he reaches down in the bag, and he pulls out a vase with some flowers in it, some kind of arrangement, a couple of those. And he puts them up there. And then he goes up and he pulls something off of, one of the walls. And he reaches in his bag and he pulls out a print of a painting. And he puts it up there and he's organizing. And Seligman looks at him and he says, what are you doing? You know what the janitor said? He said, oh, what I do here is very important. I'm helping Mr. Jones get well. Mr. Jones is the man in the coma. Seligman says, how are you doing that? He said, well, you see, that's what we do here. We help people get well. And what I do is very important in that purpose and that vision. Because the scientists tell us that when he wakes up, if he's in an environment that's bright and orderly and clean, it'll actually stimulate his body to get well faster. And when the doctors and the nurses come in here, if it's that kind of environment, They won't be confused and scattered. It'll be neat and orderly, and they can focus and they can help him. See, what I do here is really, really important to helping Mr. Jones get well.